Good morning. I feel like a young kid reporting to the principal's office after misbehaving. Because of course I said a podcast episode would be out about 3 weeks ago, and one hasn't been out. And I just got to start by saying, forgive me if you're listening to this, this podcast, and you can't see me bowing down to say sorry, because I am sorry. But I'm happy to be back. Been taking a break, I guess, an unofficial break. Just came back from a spiritual retreat and just been doing all sorts of kind of cool stuff for my health. And so that's not just a card I'm playing, by the way, because if I say it's for my health, then you can't say anything. But folks, I'm happy to be back and looking forward to all the wonderful guests we have coming up. I just want to say sorry, like I've said before, but also, a lot's been happening, which means we've actually got ample subject matter to discuss. And today is no different. We're talking about social media today. Social media, the bane of our lives, but also this wonderful thing that makes life somewhat easier. There's so many friends I know that I've met on socials, and I imagine some of you listening to this too may have friends that you've met on social media, because it is very powerful. But I think it's something we always have to talk about, because I just don't think our brain's advanced enough for the capabilities of social media. And so talking about it, I guess, gives us a chance to, make sense of how to use it better, common pitfalls, but also, how to exist online. Because what I don't kind of think is helpful, there's some people who are kind of like, oh, I don't have any social media, and they do it like a kind of stick it to the man type of thing, because they think it's inherently dangerous and there's something about it that's to be kind of feared. I don't have that perspective. I think we can use it for good, but I'm not an expert. So today I've got an amazing guest, the managing director of Reevo Social, which is a social media agency, I want to say, a social media company. He's going to help us make sense of this topic. He's also a really interesting person to talk to. He's getting married in a couple of days, but I guess when this comes out, he would have been married. So let's get on Chris and just kind of get his perspective on all these different things I'm saying. Chris, how are you doing?
So good, Mike. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be on your show. Thank you so much, and thanks for the well wishes ahead of my wedding as well.
This is what's interesting. When this comes out on Monday, you would have been married. So how was it? How did it go?
So good. Loved it. Every minute of it. Speech was easy.
It's they do it on Graham Norton sometimes, don't they? Where like they record early. And then they'll be like, tonight, they'll be like, oh, no, I mean, next week and stuff like that. But thanks so much for doing this at such short notice as well. For people who want to know a bit more about you, Chris, how would you describe the work you do?
Well, me personally, I've been in and around the world of social media now for almost over a decade, actually, managing and maintaining and curating and creating social media content and strategies for multiple businesses across multiple sectors, personal brands, non-execs, directors. And absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I do a lot of football media work as well. So I really enjoy that side of things. And as well as that, I'm a massive advocate for supporting local charities and supporting those guys in any way. I do football media for various different publications, national radio stations, newspapers, and beyond. So I've got a really good opinion and idea of how the world of social media works, which of course you need, because I think as you alluded to, Mike, in your intro, it's a complicated world and it's always constantly moving. So one of the things I really pride myself on is spending 20% of my time learning and staying on top of it, because if you don't and you're in the world of social media, you simply get left behind.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you're a real professional, because half the things you'll say that I was like, what? Yeah, I want to ask about that. I mean, I love how optimistic you are. Obviously, it's your industry, something you know really well. I don't want to start off pessimistic, but I do guess there are some people who maybe, and you can tell me what you think about this thought. Take Instagram, for instance. There was a time where Instagram was a place where you see a nice sunset and you're like, oh, it's nice, share it with my friend. Or you go, or no, you see, or your dog does something silly and you take a picture and go, look at him, look at Buster, as it were. Now maybe that was like for like 10 minutes, because it's very quickly, some people would say, turn into this marketplace where now it's literally, people just sell you things. And Twitter was the same. You share your thought and it was like, oh, what a nice tweet. But now people are digging tweets from like 2011 to be like, you should never get your job. And so, like, where's the social part of social media? And is it just a failed project at this stage?
No. But one of the things I want to be honest about and, be completely frank about, Mike, is that I'm always happy to be honest about social media. There's a lot of really, really dark crevasses and holes that you never want to go down in social media. And I think people have forgotten how to be social on social media, for sure. I think that is the purpose of it, right? In your intro, I love the fact that you spoke about the fact that social media can be a positive tool. It can be a tool for success. There's no way in hell I'd be able to have, built the career that I have done if it wasn't for the world of social media, meeting people all over the world. But of course, there are some really horrible parts of social media, as you alluded to. When Instagram first came about, they had those lovely preset, or they still do have those lovely preset filters that you just put on a sunset, and that was lovely. And everyone thought they were a professional photographer. I think naturally, what I guess, well, possibly what most people understand now is obviously with Facebook swallowing WhatsApp, swallowing Instagram, growing their portfolio of huge multi-billion pound businesses. It is one of those things where it has just become a more complicated world. And yeah, for sure, it's a marketplace, which is frustrating, but that's I think people think that social media is different, but I think it actually has a similar blueprint as for example, television had, as for example, what newspapers had when they first came to the world. People didn't like what they were saying. People didn't like what they were reading. People wanted to respond in wrong ways. They wrote grumpy letters. It caused divide in society, albeit social media does that a lot faster. So yes, social sucks in some sense, but it creates a fantastic opportunity for both yourself as an individual, but also any business on planet Earth, for sure.
No, Chris, I'm curious, right, about just the average person. Because again, I only ask you this because you're an optimist. Like I remember, I said this on a previous podcast, actually, when I was speaking to a friend who I haven't seen post on social for a while. So I said, hey, I haven't seen a post from you from a while. And he was like, oh, I have nothing to announce. And I thought, announce? It's Instagram. You don't have to announce anything. Yeah, but the issue, like it has become, and maybe it's just the way me and my friends use it, but it seems and it feels like it's a place where you have to go to make these grandiose announcements about, it's that whole LinkedIn thing where people are like, I'm pleased to announce, hear ye, I've got a job, or I saw a funny LinkedIn post before I got here. I think they were doing it as a parody. They were like, I'm pleased to announce I got 8 hours sleep yesterday. And it had like 20,000 likes. Like, oh, congratulations.
That's great. I love that.
I asked, is it a failed project? Because I'm saying, like, is there any way to avoid the kind of marketization and this notion of, announcement making which is what Instagram feels like now?
You can't change consumer behavior, right? And if you think the platforms are going to change, or you can customize your world so you don't get marketed to, that's just not the case. As soon as you sign up to these platforms, I think the other day I read a stat, something like Facebook has more information on you than like the government, and it's just like, it's so many different things, right? Facebook knows everything, they really do. And I think it's something like, as soon as you make 50 interactions on Facebook, you're more or less locked into their ecosystem, because of the fact that they can market to you in various different ways and hook you in. And I would highly encourage people that are watching or listening to this now, Mike, to go and watch The Social Dilemma if you've not already. Something that I didn't like to watch as someone that's an MD of a social media agency, but it's really important that you understand how these platforms work. It's all about attention. Everything's about attention. If they don't hook you in one way, they'll try and hook you in another. And so once they've got that new hook based on your new, because they can even keep up with that with your new interests. And the scary thing, and I won't divulge too much into The Social Dilemma now, but go and watch it. It's on Netflix. Great watch. One of the things that they speak about is that people think that you're only being tracked based on the visible metrics, for example, likes, for example, comments and shares, the pages that you follow. Oh, no, 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 no. It's now a case of, actually, I could be watching a video of yourself, Mike, for example, and then they will then know that I'm interested in shows, in podcasts like yours, and they would present me with more of those over and over again. So it can be based on how much you watch, but also where you scroll and how fast you scroll past content, and also whether you zoom in on images on Instagram. Yep, that's right. So be careful out there.
Chris, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking, how are you an optimist about social media then? Because as you say this, I just get scared. I can imagine some people listening, their blood pressure's going up as you're saying this, because it's just a nanny state, isn't it?
But we're here, and it's one of those things, Mike, where I massively believe in the fact that we must learn to make the most of it, right? You know, if you fall into the doom scrolling world of social media and you fall down those holes, you follow accounts, or you get potentially sucked in by negative ecosystems that are throwing false information at you, for example, or prompt you to take very, very emotional action in potentially the wrong way. I get that social media can be bad in that way. But look, as I said in my intro, you know, I've built a mini media career for myself based off social media. I work with brands on my own personal accounts because of social media. I meet people all over the world in all corners of the planet. Like, that's crazy because of social media. You cannot do that over email. And in terms of like, for example, these conversations now, Mike, we don't have this if social doesn't happen. I met you on social. And so I think just my general attitude is always glass half full regarding social. And I'm a huge fan, and maybe we'll speak about it in a minute, in culling your social circles, right? And that goes for all platforms. LinkedIn, disconnect with people that aren't bringing you value, or posting or self-promoting too much, potentially, as you've mentioned there, Mike, if you don't like that. On Instagram, go and unfollow the people that aren't bringing you value or supporting you in your world, right? That's a really, really positive thing to do. But also make an action today. If there's one action I'd tell people, as well as watching the Social Lemma, go and follow accounts that actually interest you, make you feel happy. Actually, stop the first one. Just go and follow accounts that make you feel happy on social media, because so many people get sucked in and then they stay there, and the platforms are benefiting from your attention. But is it really gaining you value? Like, for example, Mike, how many times have you looked at your phone and gone, oh, it's fine, I'll just have a quick scroll of Twitter. Half an hour's gone, at least, by the way, and you've gone, whoa, what have I done? Oh, yeah, I've just been on Twitter. I've lost half an hour. It's time for bed. What
would you say then, Chris? As you're saying this, like, I totally get that. And I love the fact you're giving our listeners and watchers homework already. Folks, you got to watch a film, and you got to go do a social media audit, right? Which I love. Now, a part of me just wonders then, you know, one of the things that the Common Sense Network, which is obviously this podcast is powered by Common Sense. One of the things that we talk about relentlessly is kind of the dangers of echo chambers, the dangers of where everyone agrees with you, everyone kind of buttresses your point. That makes you very ideologically obtuse. You know, you become very, very kind of this is the way the world should be organized, and you can create this weird world for yourself where obviously you're not exposed to the actual realities of the world. You're just literally following how you feel. If I follow people on social media that make me happy, or that agree with me, or that I like, don't I also run the risk of inadvertently creating an echo chamber where I just become really brittle? And that's one thing I want to speak about as it pertains to the young people. I'm young as well, right? But I mean, like, the younger people, the Gen X, the Gen Zs, they're crazy, right? Because I think it's probably one of the generations that I think is the most brittle. And I don't use the term snowflake because I think it's a dog whistle for like other things. Yeah. I just mean, like, you know, on Twitter, for instance, you know, someone might say something like, oh, we need more black police officers. Yeah. Someone's like, how dare you? The police need to be defunded. What kind of a crazy belief is this? And you go, it's not a crazy belief. It's a normal belief. But because you live in this curated bubble of people who are like, defund the police, and they sing the same song, you're like shell shocked when you see someone who has a different perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Ask you the tough questions today, Chris.
No. It's good. It's good. And it's really important that we have these conversations. It's important to be brave, and it's also, as you've alluded to, important to have conversations with people that maybe don't believe in what you believe in. And actually, that's the way the world works, and that's how we develop our personal beliefs, our character. That's how we become better human beings, rounded human beings, by exposing ourselves to different opinions. So going back to my previous point, step one is follow accounts that make you happy. But step two is definitely think about taking accountability and responsibility for your own, but stop blaming other people. Take accountability and responsibility for your own behavior online. For example, if you are seeing, for example, Mike, let's take that example. If you say the fact that you believe that you would like more black police officers in the police force, and say I do disagree with that, well, actually, why am I not maybe DMing you about that? Why am I making it a public thing? Why am I not responding to your tweet with just a question? Because I just need more clarity, because I actually seek to understand, rather than everything so, and I mean, unfortunate terminology given what we just spoke about, but everything is so black and white in this world of social media. Twitter's a great example. Twitter's a great example, you know, and I operate, massively in the UK football scene, right? And football Twitter.
You're a Norwich supporter, aren't you?
Yeah, I couldn't hide that. I tried to hide it. No, I don't. You made me laugh there. Yeah, no. So I think it's important to
take your time, Chris. Or you just gotta remember the last time. Like,
no. Honestly, oh good, you just made me laugh. I think it's just important that we take accountability and responsibility, Mike, right? And so many people are blaming other people because of the fact they're exposing themselves, but they're choosing to react rather to try and listen and seek to understand. And actually, that's a problem with human behavior in society, not social media.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that kind of self-authoring, self-governance, thing you're talking about, it is super key. Deciding that, what, if I'm going to be on Twitter, I'm going to use it on my own terms. I'm not going to get, because it is so seductive, isn't it? Or tempting when someone just says something and they're wrong, and you're like, let me correct their grammar. And it's like, no, don't do that.
No,
like, actually engage with them in a meaningful way. As you said, seeking to learn. I think that's so powerful. And I would love to see more of it, because it's easy to be very pessimistic. I do think optimism is an intelligent choice. It takes seeing something good, and it's way more difficult. So I do encourage people to do that. I just wonder then, so you're someone who's always on social, I imagine, obviously because of work and probably because you enjoy it too. Do you ever need to take time off? And would you advocate? Because one thing that's becoming a bit of a, just like avocado on toast, is this new kind of thing of like, I'm going to detox. Gonna delete everything for a week or for 2 weeks. Would you advocate that? Does that work? Is that something we all need to do more?
Absolutely. Can I do it in my world? No, because my my business crumbles. But that's my life choice, right? And I'll go on to talk about that in a minute. But I'm a huge fan of, and massive respect and kudos to people that are able to delete all of those apps or hide them in a folder and lock them for a while. I think that is just such a healthy thing to do. One of the things that I try my best to do but really suck at is what I call a no social Sunday. So everything goes quiet on a Sunday. I don't document my process, don't talk about anything on a Sunday on social media. I really try and keep that to my friends, my family, and my now wife when this will go out as well. So no social Sunday is a great place to start. But also having those app limit reminders on your phone is great. I think that's a really positive thing. But as I've alluded to in the previous question, Mike, there's this thing called doom scrolling. And if you don't know what doom scrolling is, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this, but I'm going to. So forgive me if I'm not allowed to. I call it the bullshit circle. Don't get caught in the bullshit circle, which is, and by the way, you've all done it. Everyone that's watching this now has done it. So you've been on Twitter. Yeah, you've checked all your notifications. Yeah, all right. I'm just going to go on to LinkedIn now. Yeah, going to go on LinkedIn to do some business stuff. No, I'm not. I'm actually just really enjoying the content. I'm enjoying being on it. Yeah, I've read my messages and notifications along LinkedIn. Oh, someone sent me a message on WhatsApp. Yeah, oh, let me reply to my WhatsApps. Back to Facebook. Yeah, and anyway, I've not even finished, by the way. I've not done Facebook Messenger. I've not done YouTube. I've not done TikTok. I've not done Snapchat. Oh, and by the way, whilst I've got to the end of that bullshit circle, sorry to swear repeatedly, I then go back to Instagram because I've got new notifications. So I really try, Mike, in the evenings to go round the circle once, but get off it. You have to get off it, because if you go round again, you're trapped and you are genuinely wasting your life. You are, yeah, and that's from someone that's from an MD of a social media company, right? Obviously, the way that I get success is by creating attention for my clients. I know how to use the platforms effectively to sell products, to grow personal brands, etc. But from a personal point of view, particularly late on in the evenings before bed, do the circle once, but don't go round the roundabout too often, because you'll get so dizzy.
That's a very interesting way to put it, because I've never seen it that way, and I'm definitely guilty of going around the merry-go-round. That's a PG version.
The other thing, Mike, as well, the other thing as well is a great, just another, perhaps paraphrase that people might want to use listening to this. I always say, when it comes to Facebook, for example, has anyone died? Has anyone got married? Is anyone having kids? No. Okay, I'm coming off the app then, because those are the most important life events that you as a friend should tune into, in my honest opinion. So I think it's important to almost understand your trigger points in a funny sort of way. What keeps you hooked in on social media? Set yourself some limits, try some different stuff, and go from there.
I love that. I do love that. I think one of the things I love the most about social, just to put on my optimist hat, is the fact that, like, it is unparalleled when it's unrivaled rather, when you consider, keeping up with friends and keeping up with people. Friends who don't have social at all, I find our catch-ups just way too, there's just no context for it. So they're like, oh, how's the last year been? And I'm like, oh,
where do I begin?
Good, bad, but when people have social, or they can kind of keep up with your work, even if it's like every few weeks or every few months, especially if you're someone who creates content for a living, it's just way easier for you to go, oh my gosh, you're engaged, or oh, that's really cool, you went to this place and I've been there as well, and there's serendipity, I guess, can happen a bit more naturally, because you're putting yourself in a space where there's loose threads, and you can connect them, and that's a wonderful thing, right?
Yeah, and another positive is, if you are, I mean, this is perhaps a phrase for mental health. You have to want to be helped, right? So if I put myself into a world of, I'm not going to put anything out on social media, no one can help me unless I tell them, right? So for example, on LinkedIn, if I put out something saying, I want to win this type of client in the gaming sector in 2021, all of a sudden people are going to see that, and they're going to tag people that they're connected with, and they're actually going to help me. But your friends, when they see what you're up to, for example, even if it's a menial story, like, I don't know, I take a picture of my lawn outside and it's got loads of, and molehills or something on it, right? And I'm like, oh, my lawn is so bad, how funny is this? Then my friend can actually, next time I see them, can say, well, have you spoken to this guy locally that can help you with that? But you don't get that, and you wouldn't necessarily bring that up in a face-to-face conversation. So let's not smash social to smithereens, because it can be a tool for success, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, defo. And I think folks listening probably get that. And, I would love you to kind of, just because I love the listeners so much. I sound like so much. I love them so much. I would love you to give some free game, Chris, if possible, because some people might listen and actually go, you know what I could do with Chris's stuff. I've got an organization, I've got a business, or maybe I just need to build my personal brand, and they go, let me contact Chris, and I'm happy to recommend Chris, folks. Do go ahead and check out the work. If I'm someone, maybe a young professional or student, how should I be using social? Should I just be kind of using it just to kind of share, how I'm feeling, what's going on, or should I be curating this brand and telling a story and a narrative? How should I, if I'm a student or a young professional, be using social?
I actually think some of the points that you said there, Mike, are really important. I think you need to be able to. I think the more of your story you share, the better. I think by showing vulnerability massively helps you in your career. By asking questions into these social platforms, people will help you on your professional journey. So if I could go back to when I was a young professional, clinging on to my 20s. I think one of the things that I would do is I would do what I call unlocking the door sooner. So, for example, on LinkedIn, I only ever connected with people that I knew and that I'd shaken their hand, or I'd been to an event, or I'd gone on their podcast. And that's okay, but it's very close. So you're minimalizing your exposure to opportunities. So what I did is every day, more or less, for I think it was like 6 months, possibly even longer than that, I connected with between 30 and 40 people over and over again in the industries that I wanted to hang around in. And lo and behold, opportunities came my way because I was exposing myself to those networks. So as a young professional, I would do that. I would certainly share my story. I think an incredible thing to do, and I'm sure many of you have heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. Not everyone's cup of tea. I absolutely love him. And one of the things that he speaks about is documenting your process. And you might be thinking, well, why would I document my process? No one cares about my journey. No one cares about what I've had for dinner. I'm not saying you have to publish everything, but use some of the tools on social to document your process. Because I tell you what, when you smash life, when you win and you get further down the road, it is incredible to look back on where you were, but also it's a really, really powerful story to actually help others. It's almost like a selfless act to document your process on social as well. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend, Mike, to younger professionals.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I remember watching Gary Vaynerchuk as well. Like, you gotta work hard, man. He's really kind of like, come on.
Yeah, he's hardcore. I get that. He's not everyone's cup of tea. I get that, but,
no, I love it. I think, to his point, he talks often about authenticity.
Yes,
I think that's something he has truckload, truck full, whatever the term is. And that documenting thing you said, it's actually something it's odd. Like, you should bring up Gary Vaynerchuk, because he's the person, I think, listening to him at a time where I just wanted some motivation. Sometimes you just need a bit of motivation.
Yeah.
Right? A friend, just because I'm moving houses soon, a friend bought me a present, and it's a mug that has a motivational quote. No, Mike, sorry, a jar that has a motivational quote for every day of the month.
Oh, cool, nice.
I'm not quite sure if I could handle that. Because motivation's great, but every day for a month. I think, and also, how many motivational quotes are there? I feel like after a while it's gonna be like, just go for it. You can do it. Anyways, he spoke about documenting, and that changed the way I thought about my social media, particularly because I used to think in that way. My friends said, in the way I shared at the start, where it's like, oh my god, what do I need to announce and stuff like that. Then I realized, hold on, this is a really good scrapbook.
Yeah.
Because if I can look back in a year's time and kind of, in Christmas when you've had too many, or that period between Christmas and New Year where you have no clue what's going on with life, right? That's a good time for scrolling through and just going, oh yeah, it was Finger's birthday and we went to, and it's just fun, right? It's just a fun way to kind of document. So I would really encourage folks to do that. And to your point about meeting people on social media, some close friends, really close friends, have been people who, for like 3 years, will support my work. And then I reached out to them one day, like, thank you so much, man. Like, I literally always see your name on my stuff. And then we talk, and they're like, yeah, I love the work you do. And so, like, when we started speaking, there wasn't this kind of, oh my god, am I going to like them? Because I already knew we liked the same thing. I already knew they supported my work, and I already kind of looked at their. So it was just, it was like, we didn't have to start with that kind of like, who are you? Who am I? What are you passionate about? What am I passionate about? And that's just a great thing. Have you made any like really strong friendships on social?
Oh, countless. I don't even know where to begin. And honestly,
did you meet Becky on social?
No. that was before social. So it wasn't before social, but it was before
social. When was this?
So no, it wasn't before social.
Oh,
But, like we
okay.
didn't. But that was back in the day where you didn't really connect on social straight away. You had to meet them first, and then you connected with
Then
them.
you follow. Yeah.
So that was I think it was 2011. So that was right at the beginning of some of these social platforms taking off. So yeah, no, I've connected and spoken with people I would have never have imagined. I think you can create deeper relationships as well, as we've said in all of the other stuff already. And that's the thing. I think if you have that thought process of actually, you know what, there's a ton of opportunity here, so I'm going to give it some time and some respect, and that's really quite cool. I think it's quite often those that are initially closed-minded to it are the ones that get sent more stuff and actually get presented with more problems because they're looking at it in a bad way already, right? And also a lot of people are afraid of actually reaching out to people, which was a game changer for me, Mike. Like, you know, I've tweeted people just to talk to them because that's what social's about, and they've come back to me, and then they followed me, and then we've DM'd, and then we've arranged a meeting, and then we've done business together, and you know, it just goes on and on from there. So yeah, again, another positive for
it is odd though how it's changed relationships, because I was thinking the other day, you know, there is you know, so with friends, like I said, I with friends, I want to know straight away what you're into, what I'm into, and do we match. With romantic interest, though, there is I guess some virtue in exploring and finding out and discovering out, oh, I didn't know you did that. But with social media, you can just stalk somebody, and know everything they've ever done.
Yeah.
So when you sit down for the first date, you don't have any questions.
Well, maybe not. No, you've seen everything already. Oh, well, or Mike, maybe you have got some questions, some pretty big questions that you need answers to. So actually, maybe it's helping relationships.
Yeah. I just find, because I thought about it the other day. I tweeted, because me and my friend were arguing about dates and first dates, and I was saying that with a first date, I like they'll come to the house, dinner with a deep chat, and they're like, yeah, that's crazy. If it's a first date you want to do it in public with lots of people, you know, can I keep it light? And so I tweeted on Twitter, you know, what would you guys do for a first date? And obviously I was inundated with all sorts. Someone said they would go to a travel lodge, which was scary. But away from that bombshell, people talk about crazy golf and blah 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 blah. Yeah. Some people obviously took it way too seriously, like, "Oh, Mike, I'm so happy for you," and I said, "No, let's not get carried away, folks. It's just a question." But then I thought to myself, imagine if I was going on a first date with somebody. They probably would Google me. They probably would go on my Twitter.
Yeah.
See that I asked, "Where would you go on a first date, guys?"
Yeah.
Is he using Twitter to make a thing? So when we meet, they're like, "Why did you tweet that?" And I'm like, "Oh no, it was a joke." They have to explain. Which didn't happen back in the days. I say back in the days like I was there, but you get the gist. Like, it didn't happen back in the days. So is that one of the ways, like Twitter, particularly, or social media in general, it's just ruining that discovery process that's meant to be amazing.
Yeah, maybe it's taking the magic out somewhat of dating and perhaps relationships full stop, because as you say, you kind of know everything. But then I would almost flip that and say, but actually you can kind of go straight to the deep stuff that people don't share on social media, which maybe actually is helping, right? Of course, we know full well that social media causes various problems once you're in a relationship. But yeah, to answer your question, Mike, I think it can help in that that sales process at the beginning.
Yeah. I guess you know people who aren't for you perhaps a bit quicker. If you go on someone's social and they're like, "I just love trees" or something, and you're like, "I hate trees," then you can go, "Yeah, it's not gonna work."
Yeah.
I mean, one really interesting, I guess, lasting thing I would love to hear from you. I mean, you spoke about it already, you know, through some of the stuff you do, like having a Sunday rest, a Sunday Sabbath, social media Sabbath, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, one thing I always talk about, especially with friends, is the fact that the world's very noisy. I really do feel that. You know, I was away in Wales for a week, and one of the things we were talking about there was just, you know, in London or wherever you're from, listening to this, you know, if you try and sit down for 30 minutes in silence, it's almost impossible. Like, you know, there's just like your phone will buzz, you'll hear someone like, "Get out my car!" Like coming. You know, there's just something happening. And I think we've really lost kind of the power, for want of a better term, of silence and solitude, and just being alone. And that, of course, it has negative effect on our mental health if we're constantly stimulated and we're constantly rating each other and measuring how we're doing in life. It's not really helpful. So beyond the beyond the Sabbath Sundays, right, or the no social Sundays, what else would you advocate for people who are listening to this, who do feel like the world and the noise in the world is a bit too much, and they'll like to dial it down a bit and just connect again? What would you say to them?
Well, first, yeah. So step one, hard stop, take a break. Definitely. I think particularly on Twitter, I think muting your word, muting words or conversations that potentially trigger you into a negative mindset is really powerful. So, for example, I'll be very transparent. For example, I muted Brexit for a long time because it was frustrating me so much, and I didn't want to get involved in any arguments, so I just muted it. And I just pretended just for a little bit it wasn't there before I was ready to then consume that content again. So almost like mini account breaks or mini word breaks, because you can do, that's the great thing about Twitter, to be fair, you can mute phrases, words, etc., as well as accounts. So yeah, we've spoken about taking a break and taking some serious time off as well. Like, I know, like, no social Sundays for me, given that I'm working in social media, is actually pretty good. I could probably do more, but not that much more. Whereas I would expect that most people are able to take a week off and get outside more and breathe in the fresh air. I think that's important. Do you know what as well, Mike? You'll know this, definitely, particularly in big cities, you see it a lot. Everyone is walking and they're like this, and why? Like, when you're commuting, when you're on a train, the underground, bus, whatever, airplane, you've stopped, and you don't need to look where you're going, and you don't really. I get the fact that that's then a productivity hack. For example, getting a train, or so you get a train, and rather than driving, you don't have to concentrate, so therefore you can do work. I get that. But for example, why not make a switch today that when you're walking from location A to location B, which, by the way, people will do now that we're getting back to normal, choose to not look at your phone until you get to location B, because what you'll find, Mike, is that you're looking up more, you're breathing in the air more, which might be a bad thing depending on where you are. But also, you're looking at people, you're exposing yourselves to the world, you're witnessing what's going on. And as you said, Mike, what you alluded to there is people need breaks, and you are chained to it. And to geek out on you a little bit, these social media platforms are built like gambling slot machines. The UX of them, the user experience, is done as a gambling slot machine. It's there to keep you chained. So maybe that's an idea, location A to location B. You know what? I'm not going to go on my phone now. To be fair, it is pretty dangerous as well. I tried to.
Might be saving some lives there, Chris.
I must admit, I had the pleasure of going to New York a couple of years back. You can't do it in New York because it's just too busy. You need to look on. Whereas perhaps in the UK it's a little bit easier. So yeah, I think to go over those points again, I think muting keywords or potentially triggering things is really important. I think taking a day maybe is great, but also maybe no in between location things, just to get your head up and in the real world again, knowing, right, I'm in the real world now. I'm in the present moment, and okay, I'm now going to spend some time in the digital world. I think that's absolutely vital.
So good. Wow. Folks, that's your lot. I mean, there's enough there to think about, to have a conversation about, and of course to act on. Thanks so much, Chris, for coming on. I just think there's just so much there, so much richness that if people should enact, will really change the way they live. I think one thing we have to concede is that social isn't going anywhere.
Yes.
Our lives are becoming more and more, intricately woven to the digital world. So I think it's far-fetched to think, I just won't have anything and I'll be fine. No, you won't. Especially when they phase out cash. What you gonna do then? I'm joking. So Chris, thanks so much for the free game. Of course, folks, you can follow Chris online at Reef Social. Find out about the social media agency as well. And Chris, you create a lot of content online as well, don't you? For people who have maybe just want to find out a bit more and see kind of what else is going on.
Yeah, sure. So my personal account on Instagram, for example, is @ChrisReevo. Same on Twitter. That's more for my football media side of things. You get the real me on Instagram because I try and focus my platforms rather than watering them down, which I won't geek you out on now. What I wanted to direct people to, though, Mike, because I'm a massive believer in these podcasts should be about giving value. Head over to the Reevo social media Instagram, YouTube page, go and subscribe. There's a ton of literally 1 to 2 minute video tips, which will just fill your world up with the stuff that you need to know rather than just the social media noise.
Solid. Folks, you're welcome. I'm thinking, Mike, thank you so much for this. Mike, thank you so much. Well, you're welcome. And I look forward to seeing you at the next or on the next episode we have. We're back now. So do tell a friend, subscribe if you haven't done so, share it with somebody, and don't forget to follow us online at Common Sense Pod or Common Sense Podcast. Chris, good luck with the wedding, or congratulations on the wedding.
Yeah, I've done it.